Hi, welcome back to Corporate Strategy. Today we are going to discuss on Module 2, that is external analysis of the environment. So in this module, we have the external assessment, the pestle analysis, the competitive analysis, industry analysis, and Michael E. Porter's 5 forces model, and the key success factors that determine the success or failure of a organization. So let's start with the module 2, and in this session we are going to focus only on the external assessment and the pestle analysis. In the upcoming sessions, we will discuss the other subtopics. So let's understand like why this external environment or external scanning the external environment is very important. So from thinking strategically about the company situation to choosing a strategy. So if you were to take a look at this, why it is important. So basically, as we are aware, any company has to work in both the environments. One is external environment and another is internal environment. So external environment comprises where the company or the organization do not have any control, like the inflation rates, government formation, technological advancements, environmental impact, and all those things. And if you are to talk about the internal environment, it is all about the company's strategy, vision, mission, goals, objectives, and its own competitive strategy, and where the company would like to address the segment. So what are its strategies, how to beat the competition and how to take on the competition, and everything comes under the internal environment. So both this external environment and internal environment form a strategic vision of where the company needs to head. So depending upon the external environment scanning and to suit external environments opportunities and threats, so they will focus on the strengths and weaknesses of the company, and they form a strategic vision where the company needs to head. And this leads to identifying the promising strategic options for the company. In a vision and mission clearly depicts the picture where the company would like to head and what is that it needs to do. So based on that, the strategic options that they will choose, and they select, that is the organization selects the best strategy and business model that is suitable for the company. So let's understand how this organizing framework works. So basically it starts with the vision and mission. So vision and mission talks about the impact, whether it has got the negative impact or positive impact and all those things, and it depicts the objectives, that is they are all called SMART, measurable, specific, and all those things, and based on vision and objectives it leads to the external analysis and internal analysis. In this module we are going to focus only on the external analysis, that the organization is going to scan on the threats and opportunities available for a company or organization. Okay. Whereas the internal analysis leads to the strengths and weaknesses that a firm has got in the competitive arena. So based on the external and internal analysis, the strategic choices are defined or selected. So what are the strategic choices a company has got? So that is the business strategies. Basically there are two strategies are available. One is business strategies and another is the corporate strategies. In business strategies, so whether the company would like to focus on cost leadership, the product differentiation and all. In the corporate strategies, whether the company is intended to go on the vertical integration or go for the strategic alliances and go for the or choose for the diversification, whether it is related diversification or unrelated diversification, and when they want to grow very exponentially, so then the mergers and acquisitions will be the key choice for them. So these choices based on the business strategies and corporate strategies will, so based upon this one, so then the company chooses to start implementing this strategy. So again, in the implementation, so what is the organization structure that company would like to adopt? So that is we have the various structures that we already discussed in the MOB, that is management and organizational behavior. So whether the company would like to go for the matrix structure, then virtual structure, then line and staff, and we have got so many things. Then what are the control processes that the company would like to implement? Then the compensation policy of the organization. So these strategic choices and strategy implementation lead to the advantage, that is competitive advantage. So we all know the companies exist, or the companies always look to achieve the CA, that is competitive advantage. So if a company is not attained any sort of competitive advantage, so in the strategic terms, the company does not exist at all. Okay. So the competitive advantage comes from whether it is a company as going to attain the temporary competitive advantage or sustained competitive advantage, or parity means it is on par with any other company which is serving in the industry. And it has got the competitive advantage got both things. One is competitive disadvantage and competitive advantage. So both of them will have the temporary and sustained. So it is very easy to attain the competitive advantage, but it is very difficult to sustain in the long run. So we will see how these competitive advantages are achieved or attained or retained for the longest possible time by an organization. Now you might be asking why this analysis of societal environment that is very important. So that is comprises of socio-cultural, technological, economic, ecological or environmental, political, legal factors. So if you are to take a look at all these things, so these factors lead to the interest group analysis, the community analysis, the market analysis, then the selection of strategic factors, that is opportunities and threats. That is what the company intended to achieve through the environmental scanning, then the competitor analysis, then the supplier analysis and the government analysis. So let us understand how this the scanning of business environment took very prominent position. Way back in 1967, leading corporate, early corporate author, so Francis J. Aguilera, so he is he laid the foundation stone for the environmental scanning. So which led to the frameworks like PEST, that is political, economical, societal and technological. So let us not get confused with the pests which are which attacks the forest, then our agriculture production and all. So that pests are different and this pest is different. So let us not get confused with that one. So these pest, political, economical, social and technological factors can be traced back to Aguilera's work. His book, he has written a book called Scanning the Business Environment, where he emphasizes the importance of analyzing external factors affecting business decisions. Of course, before that, even the Harvard Business School, strategic management text, business management consultants, throughout the late 20th century, various scholars and strategists from institutions of prominence have led to the development and refinement of environmental analysis framework, including PEST and its derivatives. Later on, so the PEST model has become PESTEL, so incorporating environmental and legal factors. reflecting the growing importance of these elements in strategic planning. So, the point which we are trying to, so although Aguilar's work laid the strongest foundation, but it has already started from the early 20th century, where many economists were talking about. So, the firm need not only necessary to focus upon the internal factors, but also they need to scan the external environment. And with the Aguilar's work in 1967, so he has formally led or defined the framework called PEST. So, what are these the components of firm's macro environment? So, as we have discussed, the PEST includes political factors, economic conditions, socio-cultural forces, and technological factors. So, later on, the various experts and the various school of thoughts have included environmental forces, legal or regulatory factors. So, all these things PESTEL, so that became PESTEL. So, within that, so we have the industry and the competitive environment, that is the Michael E. Porter's 5 forces model that we will discuss later. So, this macro environment defines the industry. So, the analysis of industry leads the company's choice what a company needs to do after analyzing all those things. So, this is the phase 1. So, the phase 2 is analysis of industry, then the company will choose what it intended to go for after scanning all these things. So, let us look at this the macro environment or PEST analysis. So, we have the classic cases of Reader's Digest and Encyclopedia Britannica. So, we all know that how Reader's Digest was very famous. It was a UK arm under administration, so old fashioned. So, earlier they had a direct subscription model, but after the onset of internet and the various competitive models and forces, so their direct subscription model started not working. Then because of that the plummeting sales, so it had the pension deficit of 125 million pounds. Then it also led to the recession, one of the factors. There is also the economic factors. So, after attaining close to more than 95 million pounds of sales, but it has barely made around 5% the profit. Then of course, it has the very excellent presence in more than 100 countries and 17 million circulation, 52 editions, and it was one of the UK's 11th largest magazine out of close to 3,500 UK magazines. But it could not understand what is happening in the environment. It has the management of the Reader's Digest failed to understand so what is happening, and based on that, so they did not made any changes in their strategy, and later on Reader's Digest was sold for $2.8 billion in 2007, and it never made any money since 2005. So, this is one of the example where if a company is not able to adapt to the changing conditions, or if they fail to analyze what is happening in the external environment and make the proper changes in their internal strategies, so then it is very difficult for them to survive. Let us also take a look at this Encyclopedia Britannica. So, Britannica almost they had enjoyed very good market share. So, in 1990, so it reached almost $650 million of sales, all time high, and after of course it used to come in various volumes and in the format of books and all, but as soon as the CD-ROMs, compact disc ROMs came into existence, their regular sales dropped by 80%. So the Microsoft's Encarta approached in 1980, and this Britannica's the package was sold for almost $1,500 to $2,000, and that is for the regular the edition, whereas the CD-ROMs costed $50 to $70. So look at the huge difference between their regular print version as well as the soft version. Then the cost they were incurring, so 250. The sales commission was very high, and in many cases the CDs were given free, okay, and ultimately they sold for $136 million in 1996. So these are the two classical examples why and how, if a company fails to achieve or scan the environment properly and make changes accordingly, so they will not survive in the long run. And if you have to take the same case, of course we can take the best example could be the Apple. Apple, although started almost 35-40 years ago, but in the recent version in 2001, when Steve Jobs launched the same Apple with the music, small music systems and all, so that made the game changer